Welcome to Offsite Dirt, the podcast committed to uncovering all the insights of the offsite construction industry. Join us as we delve into the realm of offsite construction solutions, modern building methods, high-performance construction, lean manufacturing, and beyond. Your experiences fuel our passion for the industry, fostering collaboration and driving business growth worldwide. So let's get down to the dirt. Here's our host, Audrey Grabesic. Hello and welcome to Offsite Dirt. We are so excited to bring our special guest, Steven Bennett with ATH Consulting Services, to the conversation. This series that we do every month called the Offsite Construction Series really highlights the modular construction industry development and really the trends of where we're going. Steven has been in the business for quite some time, and with further ado, Steven, how are you? How are things going at ATH?
Thank you for having me on your show. I really appreciate it. Things are going great. I'm here in Dallas, Texas, and it's overcast. Luckily, it's not raining and there's no snow on the ground.
That's always a good thing. It's always a good
Yeah.
thing. So, Steven, we've been colleagues for quite some time. And for the people listening in, would you mind giving them a brief background about your interest in modular construction and then leading into the company that you own right now?
Certainly. It all started 24 years ago. I used to own a local moving company here in the DFW area, and I got very exhausted doing that. Went from 4 employees to over 60, and did it for a couple of years, and then I ended up selling that business, and then had to figure out what I wanted to do next. And I had done renovations and helped other builders on their projects building homes, and I figured I'm just going to give it a shot and see what I can do. And so I looked into doing site built homes, and then I looked into doing mobile homes, and then I came across modular homes, and I wasn't really familiar with modular, and took a deep dive into it and found out that a lot of other people didn't know much about it either at the time. And here in Texas, there were 2 factories that I visited with, and one of them was Champion Homes, Redmond Champion, and told them that I wanted to, build in the inner city single family homes. And I found out that for me, that was the easiest way to get into the building industry, is to do modular, because it's 80% complete when it's delivered. And the site prep, first of all, finding the right lot in the right area is very good. And then the site prep, and then the house being delivered, and then finishing the house. I just found that to be a much easier way of construction based on everything that I had read about it. Site built homes, and I've done those also. I mean, you're looking at 60 to 120 days, weather permitting. And with a modular home, if you prep the land ahead of time and get everything stubbed up in the right area, you're looking at maybe 60 days tops, from start to finish after it's been delivered, stitching it, first setting it, stitching it, and finishing out the inside. So I just found that as a much more efficient way of doing things. That's how I got into it.
Well, I love it. And thank you for explaining that to our audience, because again, we understand modular construction and we know the benefits, and there's so many, right? Less disruption to the site. We have 40% of building materials in our landfills currently, and it just keeps growing. So knowing that these products are built in the factory and then shipped to site makes the system so much smarter. And I agree with you. When you can have a product that's 80% complete, in some cases a little bit further than that, it eliminates a lot more coordination with your build schedule and completion of different products that you're putting inside the home. Everything is kind of a simpler process, not to mention you get to create and select everything at the very beginning of building the home. So you know exactly what's going inside of it. You know the pricing that's going to be happening for that product. And interesting enough, I mean, you've been in such a long journey to be in this over 20 some years. What has been your experience about the product value, like from the very time that you started and started working with Champion to where you see Modular has grown now? How do you see the product evolving?
In my opinion, when I got started, and I'm using this as as an example, when I got started in this, I was dealing with like a Model A from Henry Ford. And right now, you know, what I've seen out there with the different factories and the people that we know in common that build in these amazing factories that are, you know, all robotic and modern, is like dealing with electric cars of today. I mean, it's just amazing what they're able to do. And it's amazing. I mean, when I first started, everything was still connected to a I-beam frame underneath. It's called frame on. And we didn't do crane setting. I mean, we did robotic setting, just like they did with mobile homes. We had a robotic tractor and we would move the home into position. I mean, now they're using cranes and setting these, and they don't have the I-beam underneath. I mean, it's just leaps and bounds. And I mean, the designs and the materials that they're using and the contemporary feeling, everything that I did was more of a craftsman style, a 612 pitch roof, which was 30 feet wide, maybe 53 feet long, and it had a porch on the front.
I love
So,
that design. There's something so romantic about that. And we see that a lot in Savannah, Georgia. So there is still a heart and love for that. But I agree with you. They come in many different styles and designs now. And it's really kind of imaginary how we can design and build this way. And yet not a lot of people know about it. So you go from this journey of starting in building the homes, which I think is absolutely amazing because when I started my journey, I did the same thing. I had 5 projects in Colorado. I basically did all of the site work and I worked with 4 different factories at the time. And it really allowed me to understand the process because there's really, it's very similar to traditional construction and yet it's very different. So there's a different language. So you go from this process, you start learning how to speed the variety of when it's going to come, what's going to happen, how you're going to execute it, and then you go into development. How did that journey start from the builder then into the developer?
okay, it got to a point where once I learned how to do this properly, I was being asked by a lot of other people to help them because they had no clue. There's no step-by-step process out there that shows you how to do something like this. There are a lot of books out there, but they don't do a step-by-step because every situation is completely different that you have to encounter. I think for myself, I just saw greater opportunities. Once I learned how to do this, I felt like it was something that I had to do is help other people. And I mean, I've helped a lot of people over the last 24 years in the business and stayed in touch with most of those people. And some of them I'm still working with. And I still have my industrial builder's license here that was issued in Texas, but the likelihood of me building modular right now, I have other projects that I'm working on. But to talk about the next step, going from modular homes into development, the very first development that I did was in Waxahachie, Texas, which is south of Dallas, about 45 minutes. And it was a tract of land that I replatted into 7 lots. And learning how to replat and go through all those different steps to turn a piece of property that has been vacant forever into something where somebody's going to be living eventually, it was very exciting. And the process wasn't as bad and painful as I thought it was going to be. It's just long. There's a complete process that you go through to be able to do that. And I just found that taking that next step, and that was probably, I think that was 2003 that I did that. After I did that, I found out that a lot of people were asking me, where do you find lots? And I go, well, I find them in the inner city, or I develop them now. And so they were saying, can you show us how to find lots? Because most builders spend half their time building and half their time looking for lots where they're going to build their next house. And you'd be amazed, different cities are sitting on a stockpile of lots. You just got to know who to talk to get access to them. And one of them is go to your local EDC, economic development, and have a conversation with them and let them know what you're doing and see if they can be of any help, because they know all the different people in the city government that are sitting on those. That's one way of doing it. Also, churches get lots donated to them all the time. So call on churches to see if they have any land that they may be interested in selling. There's a lot of different ways of doing it. And talk to realtors, network. Look on Craigslist, believe it or not, you can find dirt on there.
I love it. It's all about the dirt. I love it, Steven. That's exactly.
It all starts with the dirt.
It totally does. Well, I can totally respect where you're coming from. And I think the little tidbits of information that you just gave today are things that people don't know, and so resourceful. Going to the economic development group and talking with them and establishing relationships and networking. You have been like a master at it. I'm always amazed that when I come to you with a question or I'm thinking about doing this, you always are so resourceful. And obviously it comes with 24 years of experience. So you start as a builder, you go through that journey, you learn the process, then you start walking into the land. And so obviously the natural next step would be to finance. So tell us about ATH and tell us about the financing part of your business and how that started.
It's funny how one thing leads into another. I mean, and sometimes, you get pushed in that area, unexpectedly. What happened is when I was selling the lots, like I would put them under contract and I would flip the contract. A lot of people, this is before I had a real estate license. I would put something under contract and then I would flip the contract. But the first question I would ask them, and the first question everybody should ask is your financing in place? Because they can put something under contract and hold up, you from closing with someone else. If their financing's not in place, it could take forever, or never. So I would ask people, is your financing in place? And they go, no, we haven't started yet. And I go, let me help you. Because I know several places you can go to get financing. And that's how I, started ATH Consulting Services, is I started helping small builders get interim construction loans for their projects when they were buying lots from me. So I would make money selling the lot, flipping it, and then I'd make a small fee for consulting them on getting loans.
So getting loans, how has that experience or how has that progressed? Getting construction loans for modular or offsite solutions, has it been a challenge? Are you seeing in the last couple of years a big shift? How is the market changing, Steven?
Well, there are a couple of places you can go to get financing for modular construction. I originally started with a hard money lender that I was dealing with, and I had a really good rapport with the gentleman. And so he knew nothing about it. And when I explained to him, I said, the bulk of the money is going to go directly to the factory in installment payments. he was like, can you explain this to me further? Because they were used to a regular draw system for site build. And they would release the money after a certain task was like your framing or your foundations in, and then you take a picture and then you send it to them, and then they send you your next drawing. But at the factory, they want a deposit, and then halfway through they want another payment, and then at the end, before you pick up or have it delivered to you, they want another payment. And there, like I said, there are two companies that I'm familiar with that are very familiar with that and how that process is done. But it's still a challenge because I don't run into people now that do onesies, twosies. I run into people that want to do, like 40 to 200 homes, and it's completely different, and how we go about doing that, and a lot more involved, but it is very possible.
And just to kind of explain that a little bit more fluidly for our audience, factories are really kind of taking their leap of faith with not only the design and the shop drawings and the architects, then they've got to go through permitting on their side to make sure that they have, and not so much permitting, it's more of an inspection process. So they have fees for that. They also have fees for purchasing all of the materials that have to go into a modular home. For those of you that aren't familiar, a modular home is basically modular construction is just a type of construction, which means it is built inside the factory. And then the entire box, think of it as Legos, is then finished from walls to flooring to cabinetry to lighting. All of those things have to be purchased. So that's kind of the amazing thing about this process. And most factories are able to build an entire home within 20 to 28 building days inside a factory, like done.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of cost to that, right, Steve? And so there are maybe 5 draws, and they say, rule of thumb is typically it's about 80% or so of the total cost of the project is all upfront costs, right? So when you're working on that and knowing that that is the case, your process to finding those individuals and working on these large sums. I mean, it seems to me over the last 6 months, it's been a very challenging market. Would you say it's been the same for you, or have you seen things open up? Because I haven't. In the last 6 months, I've seen less transactions, less investors out there, people holding on to their money, rightfully so. I mean, there's no wrong or right about it, but that's just what I've seen. What have you seen in the marketplace?
There are some challenges, but like I said, right now I'm working on larger projects, and they take several years. Like I worked on one project for 3.5 years, and then finally it just recently got finalized. These things do not happen overnight, and you have to have the staying power, to be able to hang in there. And what's funny is when people talk about, well, you make it look so simple. I explain it maybe in simple terms, but it's not simple. It's in some cases it can be very painful.
I agree. I think that's a really good point. And I think that's a really good point in development in general. When you're doing a space that is 40 units, 120 units, 200 units, there is such a process that has to go on with the land. And then there's a process with permitting. And then there's a process with how are you introducing this into that community? So there's levels and more levels of execution. But like you said, if you're able to stay the course and stay enthused about it, and I guess the end result, especially if you're working in an obtainable type of community, is you're really being of service to people to have new homes, right?
Correct. That ultimately that's it. Yeah. Go ahead.
And so my question to you is what keeps you inspired to keep doing this and to be on those long projects?
Um, it's I like jigsaw puzzles. I don't like doing them physically, but I like the challenge. And there are a lot of challenges with this, but they can all be overcome. And the thing is, if I don't know something, I can hire somebody who does. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. And I'll give you a good example. I hope it comes together like I'm thinking right now. But for instance, when somebody buys a lot from me, and you know, people have a preconceived idea of like a house that they want to have built for themselves. You know, I want, 5,300 square feet. I want 63 bedrooms, whatever the case is. I want a 24 car garage. The thing is, they have an idea of what they want house wise, but they don't size it to the lot. Okay, the lot dictates what size you can build on. And that's one of the really important steps that people need to realize also, is that if you have a 7,500 square foot lot, like in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, typically a 50 by 150 sized lot, you have to be mindful of all the setbacks and everything that are involved. The setbacks, the side of the house, maybe 5 feet or 10 feet, the setbacks on that, and the back of it may be 10 to 25 feet. And usually the front is anywhere from 20 to 30 feet back, depending on the areas. And that can be from the curb, or that can be from the backside of the sidewalk. So you got to be aware of that. And that's just part of the process that I think a lot of people, try and you can't rush this, is what I'm getting at. You just can't rush it. You have to be aware of all these different elements that have to come together to make this work.
Yeah, I agree. And you're bringing up one point, right? That's the land. And then we walk into the home, and then we walk into that process of the factory built home, and what does that look like, and what are the warranties, and what's the scope of work, and then finding the general contractor. And so I agree with you. And I think the most successful stories are the ones of greatest communication.
I agree with that. And it'd be nice if people shared more information too.
I agree.
Like when I got started in this, nobody knew anything about it. And people were asking me questions all the time. And I was very helpful as I could be to them. And it's just an exciting time. I mean, even though modular has been around forever, people are just starting to be more aware of it, and it's getting more acceptable. It's kind of like the electric cars. When they started really coming out, I go, there's no way there's no way I'd go for that. And now I'm considering buying two. One for my wife, one for myself.
Yay, finally, hooray. I can't wait to hear about what one you guys get, because
Yeah.
I'm here waiting. You and I talk about that all the time. So
Yeah.
that's wonderful. And you are bringing up such a great point. I think that people are realizing that there are choices. It doesn't have to be a traditional way anymore. There are choices to evolving building. And I think the other thing that I really love about modular and many high performance modular builders, which basically means they're really considering the thermal envelope, the way that the house is built with the wall system, and being able to conserve energy in those homes. It's so important right now, and it's so valued, because if you're outside building a home and there's weather and it's raining and it's snowing, the likelihood of maybe mold growing there is pretty high. You can't substantially find all areas within that frame system that maybe hasn't been damaged somehow. That is one of the things that I love most about modular, is knowing that it was built in a factory, and I'm eliminating just that key component of mold, right? And there's so many other, but the mold thing was a big thing for me because it's so prevalent in all of the homes now. And so now we're remodeling homes and trying to do things where we're helping in just that area.
Well, what's really interesting about that is also with modular homes, once it's delivered and set, you can actually lock the door the same day. I mean, that's important to me. And when you're doing site built homes, you got the foundation. First, you got to put the foundation in. Then there's time waiting for that. Then you got to frame it, deck it, roof it, put the siding on, and then you can put the front door on and lock it. So, I mean, you're 30 to 45 days out, before you can do that. With a modular, same day, you can lock the front door, which was huge.
That is such a good point. And all of your appliances are safe. Things aren't walking off the
Yeah.
site. I can tell you so many builders that have been so frustrated, and they have fencing around, to keep the security for their homes. And yet they still have, and some crazy stories where there's like people going in and living inside of them while they're getting built and constructed. And that's sad. I mean, that is a horrible scenario to be in when people are homeless and trying to find shelter, but these are real things that are happening in the building community, don't you think?
Yes, they are very real. It just takes a certain person, a certain mindset. I think if most people want, I think if builders that are doing site built homes would just take a moment and go to a factory and walk through it and get educated and see what the possibilities are. And like the misconception about modular homes is that they look like a mobile home, with a 312 pitch roof or a 412. Everything I did was a hinged roof. It came flat like this, and we raised it up, put it together, and then set the house. And it was a 612 pitch. You can't tell the difference. I mean, I even had real estate companies when I was building homes do bus tours of my homes, and they were just blown away. They were like, "Oh, I didn't know that this could be this nice," And the first thing they do is they lean on the exterior wall and they go, "I'm not falling through."
But again, you're so right. That's the misconception, right? That's
It
the
is.
mindset of what this
It
means.
is.
There's a lot of confusion around it.
They think, like the every news group when there's really bad weather, especially a tornado ripping through Texas, which they happen frequently this time of year, is they show a mobile home park that is just devastated, you know. And it's sad that they focus on that because they mobile homes fill a purpose. Modular homes fill a purpose. All of these, they're housing, and it's all different types of homes. In Dallas, I live in a neighborhood that's over 110 years old. Most of the homes here are on pier and beam. They're wood frame homes, and it doesn't matter if a tornado rips through at whatever level. It's going to be devastating to whatever it hits. By the way, tornadoes are no joke.
Yeah, tornadoes are no joke. But I also, interesting enough that you're talking about that. There has been studies with hurricanes and tornadoes, and because of the way that many of these modular builders are building the frame system, because it has to travel, sometimes it's traveling
Right,
500 miles.
right.
The stability and the structure and the structural design that is created for these build systems are fantastically with great strength. So they're seeing a lot of them still standing when others are not.
Yeah, every one of the homes in the Dallas area that I built, every once in a while I drive around and take a look to see how they're doing. They're all doing fine.
Yeah, it's amazing, right? It's the
Yeah,
longevity of these homes are really just another piece of the benefit of building with modular construction.
yeah. And I mean, the absolute number one thing I think, in my opinion, is that you can purchase something from the factory at a guaranteed price. Okay, I've done site build homes also, and I built two site build homes right next door to each other. One cost more than the other. With modular, if you pay $110,000 for the home, that's exactly what you're paying. On a site build home, if you have it budgeted at 110,000, maybe 126,000 by the time you're done. It's just
Agreed.
amazing. I mean, I really think modular is the future. I really think that people are getting more uh, educated on it. I think more than anything else, and I think your show is fantastic, and you're bringing to light all these different subjects pertaining to modular. So
Thank you,
I'm
Steve.
giving you two thumbs up.
I so appreciate it. So ATH Consulting Services, Steve Bennett, how can people connect with you?
If you would like, I have a LinkedIn profile. That's the best way, I think, to get a better idea of what I do and how I do it. My contact information is Steven at athconsultingservices.com. And I'd be more than happy to see what I can do to be helpful to any of your listeners.
I love that. And you've been such a great wealth of information today. Modular construction, something to look into if you have started your company or you are a builder. It might be something to start researching a little bit and helping yourself just to understand that maybe the efficiencies of this build system might be something that can help you. So we wrap up on our offsite construction series. Steve Bennett is not only one of the most resourceful 20-year veteran in modular building, but also in development and now also in finance. So if you're looking for any of those services, please reach out, because he has been just such an anchor in the things that I've done in my company and my business, and his network has been just phenomenal. So thank you again, Stephen, for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
It's always a great day when we can talk about offsite construction. This is the Offsite Construction Series, and there you go. There is all the dirt on modular construction. Have a great day.